Hello friends, welcome to my channel Mukesh English. Friends, in this video, I'm going to provide you the first semester BCom General English, all the lessons summary which come under the Bangalore City University. So dear BCU students, welcome to my channel. And in this channel, you are going to get a very comprehensive summary of all the 7 lessons which you have in your first semester BCom General English syllabus. So this video will be quite lengthy. Have some patience, but remember, in single video you are going to get the all the 7 lessons summary, all the just like a very capsule video where you need not watch you need not watch one lessons video separately. So in this video you are going to get the all the lesson summary. So let's begin without much delay. So before that, let's have a glance at which are the 7 lessons you have in your syllabus. We have lesson number 1, London. It's a poem by William Black. Then we have a story, The Rocking Horse Winner by D.H. Lawrence. Then we have an extract, Siddhartha by Edwin Arnold. Then another story we have here, Michelangelo by Gulzar. Then Forum, an extract from Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Then we have another story here, Just Lather, That's All by Hernando Telis. Then we have an interview, Why the Food We Eat Matters, the interview with Dr. Vandana Shiva. So we have those 7 important lessons, and in this video you will be getting all the 7 lessons summary in single video, right? So let me also tell you what is the next syllabus. I mean to say, what are the components you have in your grammar. So you have in grammar reading comprehension, vocabulary, tenses, verbal, non-verbal communication, question forms, question tags, dialogue writing. So for the grammar, I have already done the videos. You can see the links of all the grammar videos in the description. So let's begin. Let's begin the lesson number 1. The lesson number 1, you have here a poem titled London by William Black. The famous British poet, the famous British English poet. And London by William Black is a powerful poem that critiques the societal conditions of the city during the 18th century. In this poem, the poet paints a very grim picture of London, focusing on the suffering, oppression, and corruption which he observed in the city. In this poem, William Black explores the themes of poverty, injustice, and the loss of innocence. So there are 4 stanzas in this poem, and we'll try to summarize each stanza. So stanza number 1, the poet says, I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, mark of woe. So here the poet observes the streets of London, highlighting how even natural elements like the river Thames are chartered. Chartered means very controlled, very restricted. The poet has noticed here that everyone he meets bears the visible signs of suffering, weakness, sorrow. So he finds all these elements of suffering, weakness, sorrow on every person's face. So in this first stanza, what do you find in this first stanza? We find here poet's walk. The poet is walking in the very restricted area. So the poet is walking through the streets of London. Everything he feels very controlled, very restricted. Even the river Thames, which should be free, but even the river is also controlled. As he looks around, he notices that everyone he meets has a kind of sadness, a kind of exhaustion on their faces. That's about stanza number 1. Second stanza, the poet continues saying, in every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every voice, in every band, the mind forced manacles I hear. So what does the poet say in these lines? Says in these lines, the poet hears the cries of men and infants, children, reflecting a kind of a widespread fear and despair. The mind forced manacles. It's a metaphor which shows the mental and the societal constraints, the restrictions which has enslaved the individuals, which is contributing to their suffering. So in the second stanza, we find the cries of suffering. So everywhere the poet goes and he hears the cries of people, men, women, even the scared babies. So it's not just physical suffering. People are trapped by the ideas and the rules, and they have been taught just like invisible chains holding them back. So their minds are trapped now. So now we are moving to the stanza number 3. The poet says, how the chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalls, and the hapless soldier's sigh runs in blood down palace walls. So the chimney sweeper cry here refers to the exploitation of the child labor. Blackening church shows the church's failure to address this injustice. The hapless soldier's sigh, which suggests which suggest their suffering. The blood down palace walls shows the monarchy dictatorship for benefiting from the war and the sacrifices of soldiers. So let's try to summarize the third stanza, which is quite difficult one, very complex. So that what is the theme of this third stanza? We find here the city's problems. So the poet sees how children forced to work as chimney sweeps, and these children are crying. This makes him feel disgusted. Even the church is also not helping them. He also thinks that soldiers who suffer because of the war started by those in power, so their pain is like blood staining the walls of the king's palace. So everywhere, a kind of frustration, a kind of disappointment, a kind of monarchy, a kind of sacrifice, a kind of injustice is being seen here. So the last stanza we find here, the poet says, but most through midnight streets I hear how the youthful harlot's curse blasts the newborn infant's tear and blights with plagues the marriage hears. So the youthful harlot's curse highlights the grim reality of prostitution and its impact on society. The newborn infant's tear symbolizes the inherited suffering of the innocent. The marriage here is something like oxymoron ties marriage to death and decay. So marriage is tied to death and decay, which suggests the moral and social corruption of relationships. So let's summarize the fourth stanza. The title for the fourth stanza we can say here, decay and despair. So at night the streets are filled with misery. Young women, young women, they are forced into the prostitution. They are cursing their lives. Their suffering affects everyone around them, including innocent babies. Even marriage, which should be about love and joy, but they feel like the marriage is linked to the death and disease. So these are the four stanzas in the poem London by William Black. So now let's try to conclude the poem saying that in William Black's poem London, the poet explores the dark, oppressive atmosphere of the city during the Industrial Revolution. Through the imagery, the poet highlights the suffering of the poor, the corruption of institutions like church, and the emotional and the physical toll of urban life. The poet criticizes the social, political, and religious systems that perpetuate, that shows the inequality and human misery. The poem serves as a powerful critique of the exploitation and the dehumanization in London, calling attention to the need for change and the compassion in society. So friends, this is about the lesson number 1. Now we are moving to the lesson number 2. Lesson number 2, it's a story title The Rocking Horse Winner, D.H. Lawrence. If you have seen the race course, how the horses run in the race course, so this is, you'll get some sort of picture here. So who is D.H. Lawrence? David Herbert Lawrence, famous English novelist, short story writer, eminent poet, and this story was published in 1926. Even a movie was also done on this on the basis of this story. So now let's begin the lesson number 2 summary here. The Rocking Horse Winner by D.H. Lawrence is a short story that explores the themes of materialism, family dynamics, and the pursuit of luck and wealth. This story is set in England. This story tells the tragic story or the tragic tale of a young boy named Paul, who becomes very obsessed with satisfying his mother's insatiable desire for money. The mother is craving for money and he would like to do anything to satisfy his mother's desire for money. So this is about the story here. Let's know the characters in this story. Paul, a young boy who seeks to win his mother's love and approval through gambling. Hester is Paul's mother, who has obsession with money. Oscar is Paul's father, ineffectual father who does not contribute to the family's financial stability. Bassett, Bassett is a gardener. Then Uncle Oscar, who is Paul's uncle, who contributes in his secret betting activities, and he just fuels Paul's hope for wealth. So these are the characters in the story we'll find here. Now let's try to summarize the story here. The Rocking Horse Winner. Guys, don't forget, in this video you'll get all the 7 lessons summary, so don't skip. Now, introduction to the family. Let's understand about the family. The story begins with the introduction of a middle-class family, which consists mother, whose name is Hester, her husband, and the children. Hester feels unlucky and believes her lack of wealth prevents her from being truly happy. The mother, Hester, feels that they don't have money. The family lives beyond its means, leading to constant financial anxiety. So slowly they feel financial suffering. The house seems to whisper the phrase, there must be more money, there must be more money, reflecting the family's unspoken desperation for wealth. So this haunting atmosphere deeply affects the children, especially who is affected by this kind of statement, Paul. Paul becomes determined to prove he is lucky, believing luck is what his mother needs to achieve happiness. He associates luck with the ability to acquire money. Then, Paul discovers that by intensely riding his rocking horse, he can enter a trance like state and predict the winners of horse races. He starts sharing his predictions with the gardener Bassett, who begins placing the bets on behalf of Paul. Paul involves his uncle Oscar, who is initially skeptical but soon realizes the Paul's prediction was quite accurate. So Paul's prediction about the rocking horse winning the horses in the race course was really getting right. Paul wins a significant sum of money, and somehow he has arranged £5,000. So gradually, Paul is getting successful in his prediction that which horse will win, and he's giving this money to his mother. So instead of relieving the family's financial stress, the money fuels Hester's greed. Now Hester, his mother, is getting greedy day by day. The house whisper grow louder, and Hester continues to desire more, and they have more discussion. Still, we want money, and Hester again has more willingness to get more money. Feeling the pressure to meet his mother's insatiable need for money, Paul becomes obsessed with winning. His health begins to deteriorate. His health getting affected because he is devoting himself to identifying the next winning horse. So he's paying more attention only to such kind of business. So with the Derby approaching, Paul rides his rocking horse with the desperate intensity to find the winning name. He correctly predicts Malabar as the winner and he wins a huge fortune. However, the effort takes a toll and Paul collapses from exhaustion and fever, though he has won, but he has lost his health. And finally, what happens? On his deathbed, Paul tells his mother that he is lucky. He dies shortly after, leaving his mother with the money she desired, but at the cost of her son's life. So the story ends on an ironic note. Hester, the mother, gains the wealth she craved, but she loses a son in this process. It critiques the materialism and highlights the devastating effects of greed and misplaced priorities. So, how to conclude? So, this story teaches us that the pursuit of material wealth at the expense of emotional well being and relationships always leads to destruction. The story serves as a cautionary tale against allowing greed and societal pressures to overshadow the true value of life. So let's not be too greedy at the cost of someone's life. So this is about the lesson number 2. Now we are moving to the lesson number 3. So don't forget, in this video you'll be getting all the 7 lessons summary in single video. So very important lesson from the examination point of view as well. Lesson number 3, titled Siddhartha by Edwin Arnold. Sir Edwin Arnold, English poet and journalist, who had worked as the principal of Deccan College in Pune from 1856 to 1861. So that's about the author. So what is this text? So the text Siddhartha has been extracted from The Light of Asia by Sir Edwin Arnold, and this extract shows the significant moment in Siddhartha Gautama's life when when he observes human suffering for the first time, which leads to his spiritual awakening. And this narrative describes the emotional stage of Siddhartha's journey and his realization of the profound misery of human existence. So that's a brief text or the summary, or we can say introduction. Now let's have a discussion in detail. So I have given theme to each part of this text. So witnessing illness, Siddhartha and his charioteer Channa encounter a man who is suffering from a deadly plague. The man lies writhing in agony. His body is marked with the symptoms of illness. Siddhartha, who is shocked by the sight, he tends to the man and he questions Channa. I think my pronunciation may not be appropriate for this Channa or Channa. How do you pronounce this? He starts tending this man and he asks Channa about his condition. Channa explains that sickness is a common fate affecting all humans at some point in their in their lives. In their lives. So Siddhartha observes a funeral procession. Later, he observes a funeral procession where a deceased man is being taken to the cremation ground. Channa now describes saying that death is inevitable, the ultimate end of life's joy and pains. The funeral pyre symbolizes the transient nature of life as the body burns to ashes, leaving nothing behind. So here Siddhartha observes the reality of death, earlier the illness. Siddhartha grapples with the harsh realities of illness, aging, and death. He questions the nature of existence and the purpose of life, if it ends in such inevitable misery? Channa reveals that suffering and death are universal, which do not spare anyone, irrespective of any of the status or virtue. So here Siddhartha reflects on human suffering. So deeply moved, Siddhartha turns his gaze, his sight from earth to sky. He starts contemplating the pervasive suffering of the world. He recognizes the cyclic nature of human existence, like birth, suffering, death, and rebirth, and he observes it as a trap of endless misery. So here we find Siddhartha's emotional awakening. Then Siddhartha revolves to seek a solution to end the suffering of all beings. He questions the justice of divine powers that which allow misery to persist and woes to find a path to liberation. Overwhelmed by compassion, he declares his mission to seek help for humanity and to break free from the cycle of suffering. So here Siddhartha's call to elevate suffering. Then Siddhartha, deeply affected by what he has seen, he instructs Channa to take him back home. He expresses that the sights of suffering have shattered his previous perception of life as a serene and unchanging stream. So he goes back to his palace, he goes back to his home. So, this is how we can say here this extract is a powerful description of Siddhartha's first encounters with human sufferings. It sets the stage for his renunciation of worldly life and his quest for a path to liberation, ultimately leading to his enlightenment as the Buddha. So, Arnold's this author's poetic narration captures the emotional depth. So I'm sorry, the writer's poetic narration captures the emotional depth and the transformative impact of these experiences on Siddhartha's life. So this is about lesson number 3, Siddhartha. Now we are moving to lesson number 4, Michelangelo by Gulzar. So stay connected. We have 7 lesson summary. So lesson number 4 titled Michelangelo by Gulzar. I hope everybody knows Gulzar, the famous lyricist in Hindi cinema. So obviously we should talk about this author. So what's the name of this author? Sampuran Singh Kalra is better known by his pen name Gulzar. He is a renowned lyricist of Hindi cinema. He writes poetry in Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, and other languages too. He's the recipient of Padma Bhushan, Dada Saheb Phalke Award, National Film Awards, Grammy Awards, Sahitya Academy Award, and Jnanapitha Award. He is regarded as one of the most popular and greatest poets of this era. So, if you say that he has also forayed into the territory of film direction and writing short story, that's about the famous person Gulzar. So, now what is this story here? What is the story Michelangelo? The fascinating story prescribed Michelangelo has been taken from Gulzar's collection of short stories Ravi Par. This story explores the life of an we can say life of an a very genius named called Michelangelo. One can only wonder about the unwavering dedication of the inimitable artist. He's an artist, Michelangelo. In this story, Gulzar brings to the limelight the uncompromising attitude of a true artist. It explores the thin line of distinction between good and the evil as well. So do the good and the evil simultaneously coexist in an individual, or do they manifest according to the changing circumstances? So this question answer we'll find in the story. Now let's discuss the story in detail. So we have four important characters. We have five important characters. Michelangelo, the famous artist, who is working on the Sistine Chapel. Pope Julius, who is a pope, who is pope, who commissioned Michelangelo to paint the frescoes in the Sistine Chapel. Bramante is the another artist mentioned by the Pope. The beady-eyed man, the person Michelangelo chooses as the model for Judas, and Mussolini, the child from Michelangelo's past who inspired the face of little Jesus in his earlier work. So these are the four important characters. Now let's see the story Michelangelo. Michelangelo complains about faces in Rome. Michelangelo is an artist who is working on painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. He tells Pope Julius that he cannot find interesting faces in Rome. He feels all the faces look the same and lack some character. Pope Julius jokingly asks Michelangelo what he sees in his own face. Michelangelo replies, a burning candle. Michelangelo searches for the right faces. Pope Julius remembers that Michelangelo had been looking for the perfect faces to paint for years. Michelangelo says that he wants to paint the faces of Jesus, Mary, and Judas, but cannot find them. He believes the faces are hidden in the Bible. He spends a lot of time trying to find these faces. He even repeats Bible verses to find himself, hoping they will find him, they will help him finding them. Then Michelangelo's memory of his mother. Michelangelo remembers his mother from when he was young. He remembers how she looked while carrying water and taking care of the house. He uses his mother's face as an inspiration to paint the Virgin Mary. Michelangelo refuses to paint. Pope Julius asks Michelangelo to paint the Sistine Chapel frescoes. At first, Michelangelo refuses because he's a sculptor, not a painter. Eventually, he agrees because the project will make him famous and he also needs money to buy marble for his sculptures. Then, Michelangelo's frustration with Judas. Michelangelo struggles to paint the face of Judas. He cannot figure out what Judas should look like. One day, Michelangelo sees a strange man in a small eatery. The man has bright eyes and a bit rude. He tricks people into giving him food by asking for change. Michelangelo decides that this strange man is a perfect model for Judas. He tells the man that by sitting for him, he will make him famous. The man agrees, and Michelangelo starts painting his face for Judas. What happens later? One day, while looking at some old sketches, the strange man sees a drawing of a child that Michelangelo had made many years ago. The man asks who the child is. Michelangelo tells that it is a sketch of a little boy he saw in Bologna years ago. He used the child's face to paint baby Jesus. The man then reveals something surprising, saying that he is that very child, now grown up. The man's name is Mussolini, and he was a child Michelangelo had drawn years ago. What's the irony of the life? Michelangelo's art comes full circle. The same person who once represented innocence and purity as a child, who has been modeled as baby Jesus, now represents betrayal and sin as Judas. This shows how the life changes people. So, which are the key points from this lesson? Michelangelo. Number one, Michelangelo is frustrated because he cannot find interesting faces for his paintings. He remembers his mother's face and uses it to paint the Virgin Mary. Michelangelo sees a strange man who tricks people for food and decides to use him as a model for Judas. The strange man later reveals he was the same child who inspired Michelangelo's painting of baby Jesus. The story shows how people change over the time from innocence to betrayal. So this is the fourth lesson summary. So don't run away. Now we are moving to lesson number 5, The Forum by William Shakespeare. So friends, in this video, you'll be getting all the 7 lessons summary in single video. So have patience, right? So the forum. The forum is an extract from William Shakespeare's famous work, Julius Caesar. Not the complete one, some extract. So forum, the text forum is an extract from William Shakespeare's play, Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2. And this Act 3, Scene 2 takes place after Caesar has been assassinated by a group of Roman senators, including Brutus, Cassius, and others. The scene shows two important characters, Brutus and Mark Antony, giving speeches to the Roman citizens. So Brutus and Mark Antony, they are giving speech to the Roman citizens. Their speeches aim is to persuade the crowd to support them and their actions, right? Because Julius Caesar is already assassinated, killed, we can say. So this scene is important because it shows how powerful speeches can change people's opinions. Now let us see the text forum summary. Brutus, what does Brutus say? Brutus starts his speech by addressing the crowd of Roman citizens. He says that he loved Caesar, but he loved Rome even more. He explains that he killed Caesar to protect Rome from Caesar becoming too powerful and turning into a dictator. Brutus tries to convince the people that Caesar's death was necessary for the freedom of Rome. He asked them if they would rather live under Caesar as a king or live as free men without him. He says that he killed Caesar because Caesar was ambitious, which believes harmful to Rome. Brutus also, one minute. Okay. Brutus also talks about his own honor. He tells the citizens that he did not kill Caesar because of any personal hatred. He claims that he did it for the good of the country and that he would do the same if he had to die for Rome. The crowd listens carefully, and many of them agree with Brutus, calling him as an honorable man. They believe that Brutus did what was best for the Roman people, and they start praising him. Mark Antony's speech. That was a Brutus speech. Now Mark Antony speaks to the Roman crowd. Antony enters after Brutus and he speaks to the citizens. At first, he seems to agree with Brutus by calling him as an honorable man, but he quickly uses the clever words to show the crowd that Brutus' reasons for killing Caesar may not be as good as he claims. Antony says that Caesar was a good man who did not deserve to die. He tells the citizens that Caesar was not ambitious, as Brutus said, because Caesar refused the crown 3 times. He also tells them that Caesar cried for the poor, showing that he cared about the people, not just power. Antony starts to challenge Brutus' argument by repeating the phrase, Brutus is an honorable man. He uses this phrase to create a doubt in the minds of the people. By repeating it, he makes the crowd question Brutus' true intentions. Then Antony tells the crowd that Caesar's death has left them all in sadness, and he reveals Caesar's will. He says that Caesar left money and land to every Roman citizen. This excites the people as they realize that Caesar cared for them and wanted them to benefit from his wealth. So Antony also shows them Caesar's wounds and describes how each of the conspirators stabbed Caesar, including Brutus, whom Caesar trusted the most. This makes the crowd feel angry and sad for Caesar, and they begin to shout for revenge against the conspirators. Citizens' reaction. So, Brutus' speech we have seen, Antony's speech we have seen. Now, how do the citizens react? As Anthony continues his speech, the citizens' feelings change. They start to feel pity for Caesar and rage against the conspirators. The people now see Brutus and the other senators as the traitors. They want to take revenge. They start shouting for the murderers of Caesar to be punished. So now let's conclude. So in this scene, Act 3, Scene 2 by Julius Caesar, in Julius Caesar, titled, extract is titled as Forum, Shakespeare shows how Brutus and Antony use their speeches to try to control the emotions and the actions of the crowd. Brutus justifies Caesar's death by saying it was for the good of Rome, while Antony cleverly uses the emotions and Caesar's will to change the people's minds. By the end of the scene, the crowd has turned against Brutus and the conspirators, showing the power of speech in shaping public opinion. So, this is about lesson number 5. Now, we are moving to lesson number 6. So, we are coming to close. I mean to say, we are very much close to lesson number 6 and 7. So, don't run away. 7 lessons summary in single video, continuously without any break. So lesson number 6, titled Just Lather, that's all, by Hernando Teles. Who is Hernando Teles? Um, Hernando Teles is born and educated in Bogota, Colombia, politician and a reporter and writer. So that's about the author here. So what is this lesson here? Just Lather, that's all. It's a short story by Hernando Teles that takes place during the time of political unrest. The story revolves around a barber who is secretly a revolutionary, and the man who sits in his chair is Captain Torres, a military officer who is responsible for the execution of rebels. The barber faces a moral dilemma while shaving the man who has caused the deaths of his fellow revolutionaries. So, this story explores the themes of duty, morality, and the internal conflict between personal values and the professional responsibilities. So, before we go through the story, let's know about the characters. So, we have two characters. One is a barber, that is the narrator himself, a secret revolutionary and skilled barber. Second is here Captain Torres, a ruthless military officer who is known for executing the rebels, killing those rebels, and who does not know that Barber is one of his enemies only. So let's start the story here. The story is set in a small town where a barber who works in his shop. He's a secret revolutionary, and the man who walks into his shop is Captain Torres, who is a military officer who is known for killing the rebels. The barber recognizes Torres immediately and he feels nervous. Torres does not notice the barber's discomfort and he calmly asks him for a shave. As the barber prepares to shave Torres, he feels a lot of fear and anger inside. He's secretly a rebel, but he's also a professional barber, so he tries to focus on his work. He begins preparing the shaving soap and gets ready to shave Torres, but he's shaking, feeling the weight of his situation. While the barber works, Torres talks about a recent mission where he captured and killed rebels. He mentions that he plans to continue hunting down rebels and says that soon all of them will be dead. Torres speaks casually about these brutal acts, showing no remorse. This makes the barber even more upset. So, what happens? The barber has a strong desire to kill Torres. He knows he could easily kill him with a razor in his hand. However, he hesitates because he doesn't want to become a murderer. The barber wonders if he should kill Torres, who is responsible for the deaths of many of his fellow revolutionaries, or if he should do his job as a barber and let him go. So Torres continues to talk about what he plans to punish more rebels. The barber, still shaving him, wonders how much longer he can hold back from killing the man who is responsible for so much suffering. After the shave is finished, Torres gets up, looks at himself in the mirror, feeling his smooth skin. He thanks the barber for the shave. He thanks the barber for the shave and says something surprising. Torres says, "They told me you would kill me. I came to find out, but the killing is not easy. You can take my word for it." Torres leaves the shop, leaving the barber to think about what just happened. The barber is relieved that he didn't kill him, but also confused about what it all means. The story ends with the barber reflecting on his decision not to kill Torres. He realizes that while he had the chance to get revenge for his fellow rebels, he chose not to because he didn't want to become a murderer. He feels conflicted because Torres is a man who caused so much harm, but the barber knows that killing him would not solve anything. The barber chose to remain true to his profession and not give in to his desire for revenge. The story ends here. So this story, just lather, that's all, shows the emotional and moral struggle of choosing between revenge and doing what is right. The barber is faced with a difficult situation, difficult decision that leaves him questioning his place in the world. So this is about lesson number 6. And now we are coming to the last lesson of first semester BCom General English under Bangalore City University, SEP syllabus 2024 onwards. Guys, this is the last lesson titled Why the Food We Eat Matters. So it's an interview of the famous environmentalist and environmental activist Dr. Vandana Shiva, and this was she was interviewed on 28 January by BBC travel correspondent. Title of the interview is here, Why the Food We Eat Matters. Last lesson. So let's know about the interview. Interview of Dr. Vandana Shiva on 28th January 2021 by BBC Travel features correspondent. On 28th January 2021, BBC travel correspondent caught up with Dr. Vandana Shiva to ask her about growing up in the Indian Himalayas. How bio, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, it's a continuous video without any break. How biodiversity helps preserve local cultures and what travelers can do to make the world a better place. That's a theme. This interview talks about how old traditional ways of farming and taking care of the land can work together with modern efforts to protect the environment. This interview highlights the importance of learning from the knowledge of indigenous people to solve the big environmental and social problems we face today. So, in this summary, I'm going to summarize each and every question which has been asked by the interviewer to Dr. Vandana Shiva, because we cannot change the words of interview. So very first question which is asked to Vandana Shiva is here. Why are traditional practices and natural healing important today? To answer this question, Dr. Vandana Shiva says that after centuries of colonialism and industrialism, the world is facing ecological collapse. Indigenous people who live in harmony with nature can teach us how to survive in this time of crisis. That is, the Indians can teach. Second question, the next question. What examples from India restore your belief in food and culture? She says, during the pandemic, Dr. Vandana Shiva saw women in the Himalayas celebrating a millet festival, showing that traditional foods can be more nutritious, require fewer resources than industrial farming. Local food systems helped people surviving during the lockdown. Next question. What is food sovereignty and why is it important? Vandana Shiva says that food sovereignty means having control over your own food, health, and land. It involves organic farming, protecting seeds, and caring for the soil. This helps maintaining the biodiversity and local cultures. Next question. How is food sovereignty practiced in India? So Dr. Vandana Shiva's organization titled Navdanya has created over 150 community seed banks which help farmers to grow resilient and the very nutritious crops without any chemicals, without using any chemicals. Farmers also farmers also earn more by practicing sustainable farming. Next question by BBC correspondent. How did your upbringing inspire work? So, growing up in the Himalayas, Dr. Shiva learned the importance of biodiversity. Later, she saw the negative impact of the Green Revolution and decided to promote peaceful, non-violent farming practices. Next question. Why is seed saving important? Seeds are the foundation of life and food. By saving seeds, we can protect our food freedom. Dr. Shiva's work includes fighting against patents on seeds and showing that biodiversity can produce more nutrition than industrial farming. Next question. Why is food sovereignty especially relevant for women? To answer this question, she says, women are the primary farmers in many parts of the world, growing food for nourishment, not for profit. Dr. Shiva, Vandana Shiva, believes women can lead the way in regenerating the earth and improving health through sustainable farming. Next question. Which cultures are good examples of organic food systems? She says indigenous cultures worldwide, like the Australian Aborigines and small farmers in India and China, have practiced organic farming for centuries, are the greatest examples of sustainable food practices. Then the another question is here, what is earth democracy? Dr. Vandana Shiva explains earth democracy as a belief that humans are not separate from nature. We must respect all life and create systems that support the earth, not exploit the earth. It's about living in harmony with nature and rejecting harmful industrial practices. Next question. What common thread connects food and identity globally? According to Dr. Vandana Shiva, colonialism has divided us, but food unites us as a part of the earth. Dr. Vandana Shiva observes a growing global awareness of the need for local, biodiverse, chemical-free food system to reduce environmental harm. Then another question we have here, how do you ensure you eat sustainable food when traveling? Dr. Vandana Shiva prefers eating locally grown food or fasting when she travels. She also promotes the Grow Your Health movement, encouraging people to grow their own food. What advice do you have for travelers who want to make a positive impact? She says travelers should eat consciously, avoiding processed foods and supporting local, sustainable food systems. Food choices play a very important role in either supporting or harming the planet. Now we have last question to Vandana Shiva. What gives you hope for the future? Dr. Vandana Shiva believes that hope is not something external. It's a process of living. She creates hope with every action and thought, emphasizing that change comes through conscious living. So this is how, through this interview, what do we learn here? Dr. Vandana Shiva emphasizes the importance of reconnecting with the traditional, sustainable food systems as a means of protecting of earth and preserving cultural identities. Through her work, she advocates for food sovereignty, seed saving, and biodiversity, all of which contribute to healthier ecosystems and communities. She believes that hope for the future lies in conscious, everyday actions that respect nature and all living beings. Dr. Vandana Shiva calls for a shift from industrial agriculture to more localized, ecologically sound practices that nourish both the planet and its people, encouraging everyone to be mindful of the impact their food choices have on the world. So friends, this is how I have tried to give you the full summary of the all the 7 lessons which you have in the first semester BCom General English under Bangalore City University syllabus, SEP syllabus from the year 2024 onwards. So friends, thank you so much for watching my video. And please do subscribe my channel because you are the first semester student and you'll be getting more videos in the days to go in the second, third, in the fourth semester. And you can see all the grammar components links in the description. I already done the videos on grammar. You can check the description and you will find all the grammars link. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, any doubt, you can mail me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com and click on the like button, write in the comment box, subscribe the channel if you have not yet done it. Thank you so much. I wish you good luck for the examination.